Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Grumpy Dads. We've had a bit of a break from the normal traditional format that we've got, but we're back to it this week. Joining us as always is Chris.
Hello mate, and this week we have got the amazing Trish Butler. How you doing, Trish?
I'm great, thanks.
Good.
Glad to be here, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and joining us. As always, we are going to kick off with Icebreaker Antics. Basically, I'll explain a little bit about the game. So I scour the net looking for 1-star reviews. You have got to guess the products based on the reviews I read out. If you guess it on the first guess, you get 3 stars. Second guess is 2 stars. And last guess is 1 star. Right, we'll go to the first review. Too fragile. Cracks not long after pulling and tightening. Help.
A belt?
She's got it right. She's got it right.
Okay,
3 stars. 3 stars. The other 2 reviews for that one is got a pack of 2. Both lasted less than a month. Too thin and seems to be plastic. And last review, not genuine leather at all. Even the buckle feels cheap. So, yeah, some nasty belts. Second product. Ridiculously small and flimsy. Can't use this.
Okay, this may be the most obscure, vague review you've ever read.
Well, you know it's small, you know it's flimsy, and you know that the person who bought it thought they could use it.
Yeah, great.
That doesn't make it vague at all.
Yeah. I'm going to chime in with, I'll go a camera tripod.
No, it's a good guess though. I like that guess. Trish, what's your guess?
Small and flimsy.
It is a woman's product. I will say that. That's just a little.
Oh, that doesn't help me at all.
No. Okay.
It feels like it should be something that's supportive. That makes me think of a bra and a woman's product. I'll just go with that.
You go and go with bra. It is not correct, I'm afraid. We'll go on to the second review. Not the one I ordered. I bought one that was big with a zip.
Oh, hoodie.
No.
Oh.
That's a new word, actually.
I've not got a clue. Go for it, Duncan.
Oh.
You can pass me your guess. But
yeah, I passed it on.
I'm going to go for a tent.
No. That's a good guess as well. Really good guess.
Ooh, does that mean it's like close?
It's no, I try not to give anything away, but until the third one. Third review is I can't fit anything into it. Gave it my daughter for dress up.
A handbag.
A handbag. There we go. That's 4 stars in total. So we move on to our third product.
I was going to say purse because over here they call a handbag a purse.
They do.
In the US. I'm in the US.
I think I would have.
Fanny pack has a whole new meaning.
I've given you that. I don't, because obviously purse in the UK is kind of what you keep your money in, isn't it?
Right. Which they call a wallet, you know. So.
Really?
Why do Americans do that though? They change everything. Aluminum. What? Why are we
no idea.
A letter from the word to make it compatible over there?
We're supposed to simplify things, I think.
Are we changing over to blow our top here? Or it feels like a blow our top episode.
It does feel like a blow our top topic, doesn't it?
And if I remember correctly, in the last episode, you didn't put the Americans in the bin.
Oh no, that was the holiday.
Okay, we'll move on to our third product. First review. The vibrations made my jaw hurt and I can't turn it off.
I had this problem last
night. I know what I would like to say, but I'm going to keep it clean.
Okay.
And talking of clean, I'm going to say an electric toothbrush.
I knew you would, but no, it's not correct.
I fell into your trap.
Is it some kind of VR headset?
No, it's not. It's not. We'll move on to the second review. I'm quite small, but my last pair fit fine. These are too big and bulky.
Hearing aids?
I know you're laughing, but that's a really good guess.
I think that's really close. I think it's headphones.
I think you're right. That is, well done. Last review on that one is Bluetooth is rubbish. The bass is horrible. So we go away with that was 2 stars, 1 star, and
6 stars.
6 stars. That's very good.
That is really good.
We think
That's the
Team-
highest
the
we've
team-
had in some time.
first episode we've done in some time, to be fair.
Oh, that's true.
I started off so well though, and
I know.
Well, we got it. Hey, look, 6 stars. Trust me, we've had a whole run of 3-4 star ones.
Yeah, you did really well on
You've
that
done
one.
good.
Right, we move over to our second part of Icebreaker, which is crazy questions, random
Okay.
questions, and we just want your opinion on them. So first question is, where is the most uncomfortable place you've ever slept?
I'm not one for sleeping anywhere other than my bed. So we have to go back a lot of years. Probably camping, when I was younger.
Yeah.
I do not camp now. Forget it.
I hate
I might glamp. I might be persuaded to glamp, but no way do I camp.
Duncan, what's yours? Under a truck or something? Or what?
Heathrow Airport.
You slept at Heathrow Airport?
When I first came over here to meet up with Tracy, on the way back, we got the times messed up, and I was supposed to arrive at 7 a.m. and arrived at 7 p.m. So I ended up having to spend the night trying to sleep in Heathrow Airport on those hard, molded, plastic, awful chair things with about 20 other people clutching my luggage in case someone was going to try and steal stuff. I think I must have got about 4 minutes total sleep that night. I was an utter mess the next morning.
Oh my gosh.
2 places. One, on an aeroplane, which I'm 6'3", and I'm not rich, so I wasn't in first class or business class. So I was like the sardine, and on a plane, and you're trying to rest, and you've got that little, they give you that luxury item of that little tray that comes out that you put your food on. Usually they didn't give us any food, but so I had a kit there, which was horrible. And the second place was, it was a pull-out bed. We went away with another couple and their kids, and we had this big sort of camper van sort of thing, a static caravan. And this bed that we pulled out, it had this big piece of wood that ran straight through the middle. And as soon as you rested on it, you could feel it there. And you could try and get it between your hip and your ribs to not to have it rubbing on. But as soon as you wake up, you feel that you've taken a sledgehammer to the side of you, especially if you're trying to sleep on it for more than sort of 6 hours. So the second crazy question is, what's the weirdest thing about modern life that people just accept as normal?
I was talking about this just the other day, actually. It's just being able to watch whatever you want on TV whenever it's when I'm like in my 50s. So when I was growing up, if you missed a TV program, that's it. You missed it. We didn't even have VHS. I mean, it was, and now I'm like frustrated because I'm watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm like, it's 2 episodes, and I'm like, oh, come on, when's the next episode coming out? It's just like, and I'm like checking myself, like this is ridiculous to worry about that. So
I think mine's similar to that. I think it's the fact that we are so reliant on technology, and if we had complete wipeout of, say, electricity or communication, where would we be? We're so reliant on it now. From even like you said, from your day, or even mine, which was 38 years ago. So reliant that we just wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. I think we should learn smoke signals or something again, because we're going to be lost if everything goes. We're going to be completely screwed, I think.
I want to get the drums going. Hi, what the
But it is, we're too reliant. That's I think that's the weird thing, is that we're so reliant on it now that it's a bit scary that if something goes, we've got no backup plan.
No, you're right, and technology will go back decades if something were to cut out. Like if there was a war or something, and you watch, technology will go right back to 70s era type stuff.
Yeah,
I reckon the thing that we accept now that I really think we shouldn't, is just the lack of privacy. That everything is on tap, through social media and all this stuff. And I'm as guilty of it as anyone. You can kind of just trust that, it'd probably get misused, but we don't really think about it so much. It's
a lot
part of life,
though, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a hell of a lot of work, though, isn't it?
It is.
Because what you think, one thing may use it, but then another program might not use it. But what are you supposed to do? I mean, we spoke about this on Blow Our Top when you brought up Facebook. Yeah. So basically, what are you supposed to do? Sit there. I'd be reading terms and conditions for the rest of my life if I checked every single app about what they do.
And then you'd accept
agreements
them,
just come up and you just accept.
Yeah,
got time to read it. Yeah.
I just thought I can't be private anymore. And if you want to find out about me getting up at 5 a.m. and taking care of my kids, and then I don't know, coming home and having a sneaky chocolate bar or something, fine. You want to find that out about me? That's fine. Okay, fill your boots. But
what's your favourite chocolate bar? What's the chocolate bar? That's what I want to know.
I didn't really have one. I mean, I've just literally had a couple of squares today just to annoy the wife because she had a fruit and nut from Aldi. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to steal 2 squares and see if she notices. I live on the edge. It's a form of entertainment. It is.
Did she notice?
Oh, she's still in bed. She's got a night shift tonight. So I don't know.
So you took the really easy way out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to our third crazy question is, what product or service is way more expensive than it needs to be?
Well, I live in the US. So
and I'm annoyed that I can't remember it.
Yeah, for you guys,
insurance. Yeah.
Insurance, did you say? Yeah.
Health insurance. Because when I moved here, I moved here 22 years ago, and I went to the doctors and obviously I had healthcare, obviously, and they said, "Oh, you need to pay us $20 copay." I'm like, "No, that's okay. I have health insurance. You took my card, yeah, but there's a $20 copay." And I'm like, "But I paid the premiums, so no." Every time you go to the doctors, if your insurance plan has a copay, then you have to pay that copay every time you go to the doctors, in addition to paying your premium. And a $20 copay is actually pretty cheap. And if you see a specialist, it can be more. And then at the beginning of every year, you can have your excess that you have to pay first before the insurance kicks in. And then they'll only pay a percentage until you have covered all your out-of-pocket expenses for that year. And that kicks in every year. So at the beginning of every year, my prescriptions, I have to pay for those. Now, they do work out deductions, but if you look at the prices, like for prescriptions and for the doctors that they charge without their negotiations with the insurance company, it is sky high. So if you don't have insurance, it just is ridiculous how much you have to pay.
I don't think I'd survive in America. I'm confused by everything she just said, and I would either die from it or I don't know where. I would just be trying to operate on myself. Is this what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah,
when
it's very
Americans watch their
confusing.
TV shows, when you got the guy doing the whole thing, is that just like, oh, yeah, I've done that. Everyone's, Rambo is a pussy,
Oh yeah, cutting the bullet out himself, the hero. Yeah.
What about you, Duncan?
I'm going to go internet. The amount we pay every month now for our internet seems to go up more and more every year, to the point that the people who advertise that they've got really cheap internet are what we considered expensive only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree to a certain extent, and this is like any utility company, though, isn't it? And the way they get around it is basically we're charging more because we're putting in improvements and maintenance, and of course, you can't see what they're actually doing, can you?
No,
Same
I
as
actually, I
water
had
and
this
gas
with,
and electricity is the same as, oh, we're putting it into investments. All right, show me the investments. See how much they're costing.
exactly.
So I'm sure your shareholders are getting a little bit of money.
Well, I got this with Sky actually, because I just recently reviewed my Sky. We talked about this on Blow the Top with Netflix.
Yeah.
Got all that included, and it brought the price down considerably for everything. I was quite, yeah, that's great. Within 2 days of doing that, I got an email saying it's our annual price review, and you're going to pay £3 a month extra. And I was really cross because that's like, no, hang on, I've been 3 days on this thing, and you. So I gave them a call, and thankfully, they were, oh yes, no, that's not. You should have been warned about that, and blah blah blah. They ended up cutting another £5 a month off my bill for the next 12 months, so I was okay. But yeah, it's like this sneaky way they do things, and there's almost accepted now that in a contract is we can review these prices at any time.
Yeah.
So the only person who's really contracted to anything is you. And no matter what we say you're going to pay, that's what you're signing you're going to pay.
Is there any point in the contract? Basically, you can't get out of this contract, but we can change the contract.
Exactly. Yeah. We've got
it ties in nicely with your previous answer, though, Duncan, because you're saying like we're becoming more, dependent on the services and that for the internet and everything, and then they're putting the prices up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice meshing there. Very good.
Segue.
Right, that was crazy questions. As always, we move on to find out a little bit about our guests. Thanks, Trish, for coming on today.
My pleasure.
I'll ask you some questions, and we usually do a little bit of research into yourself to find out a bit beforehand. First question is: you're an author of, is it Redway Acres series?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the books?
Redway Acres, and I started writing because I was reading Pride and Prejudice variations, and I love the Pride and Prejudice series and so on, and I got an idea of my own, and I'm one of those, I always want to write a book, people, and so I started to write it down, and I actually thought, this isn't bad for a change. What I went with was really, because I always thought at the end of Pride and Prejudice, and I don't think this is a spoiler because that's over 200 years old, so I think we're good. When Lizzie marries Darcy, she in those times, oh no, I spoiled it for you, I'm so sorry. She then became
Next you'll tell me the
property.
Titanic sinks at the end of the film.
She then becomes his property, because that was the law in those days, that women then became basically property of her husband, and anything she owned became his property. So my first heroine from the books is Helena, and she owns a stable that she inherited because she's into horses. She inherits it from her grandfather. But then, of course, I've got some romance going in it. But then if she marries, she then becomes property, and her stable and everything she owns becomes her husband's. So what's she to do? Not going to tell you that because you have to read the book.
These books for sale because you don't want to give it away.
yeah, they're on Amazon. So yeah, even though I'm here in the US, it's on Amazon.co.uk as well.
The link will be in the description, so hop on there. All links to all of Trish's stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of it.
I realised I put the books right behind me, and then I was blocking them. So here's the first one. So yeah,
that's much better advertising than having them directly behind you, unless you're translucent.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, I moved them, and then I was like, well, that was silly of me. So I kind of went with that same, when I started thinking about stories for the other characters, kind of went with the same theme, so that they're women who are coping with some situation, that obstacle that women had to deal with in those days. So, for instance, like owning a business or learning a profession or performing. One of them is into, on the piano. So, yeah, got that one there. She's on the piano.
I'm going to ask a dangerous question here, and please don't be offended by either Chris or my response, but is this along the same sort of lines as Bridgerton?
Hand on heart, I have not watched Bridgerton yet, but I do plan to. I do have Netflix. I don't know. I mean, these books do have sex in them, but I think I heard from Bridgerton, it's kind of about them looking for husbands, and mine's more about them, having some passion that they want to follow and overcoming that obstacle.
So there's a little more substance to the writing. It's not just...
I would never say that. I would never say that.
I can guarantee.
I love all my older sisters and brothers. So yeah, I've not watched Bridgerton yet, but I do plan to, because people love it. But I like to think of it like, okay, it can be like glamorous like Bridgerton because it does have balls. What I've seen from like trailers and so on.
Is that the sex scenes? Oh no, balls. Sorry.
Well, it has those too. My mother was like, "Why do you have to write the sex scene?" And I'm like, "Because I like reading sex scenes, so I'm going to write them in."
Was that your plan right from when you started writing? Did you think, this is what the story's going to be about, this is the characters, and I am going to have them doing things in a book? Did you always plan? I didn't know how to word it, but did you think like, right, this is right?
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying.
The best part is you trying to work around this in a delicate fashion.
My mind was my worst enemy, because I was about to say, no, I'm not going to say it, but it was worse. It was really crude, and the only replacement I had at short notice was doing things in a book. Yeah.
So are you asking about the kind of the social part where they're overcoming the obstacles, or are you asking about the sex scenes?
Oh no, this is the sex scenes. But did you always plan when you started writing the books? Did you think, I am going to have sex scenes in this, or was it kind of like, you know what, this needs fixing up? I'm not gonna. I got dying to do it. Yeah.
When it comes to sex scenes, I am actually, and we I wasn't going to talk about this, but that's okay. There are a lot of TV programs, movies, and books where they have what I call the miraculous female orgasm. And that is where there's just a bit of thrusting, and she's like, oh, and like Meg Ryan, for those of us who remember 80s movies, in the deli.
When Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally. I'm like, no, that's not going to happen in my book. So they are quite detailed. I try to be varied, but there's certainly more going on than just a bit of thrusting. Let's just say that, because that is not, despite what you might read, despite what you might see on TV.
I'm just going to take some notes here.
There's a book called The Case of the Female Orgasm, and they had a survey in there of several thousand women completed it, and 4% said they orgasmed with vaginal penetration only. So there's your answer.
You tell my wife.
So,
okay, well, we'll move on from. It's not that I'm uncomfortable. I don't know how to word my questions.
I'm loving watching you squirm. It's brilliant.
Honestly, I'm coming up with some great stuff up here, but then I know if I open my mouth and try and ask it, it'll be very crude and not suitable for the podcast. We'll move on because you've got a new series coming out, and that's something completely different, isn't it? How was it transitioning over from the Redway Acres to this?
So Redway Acres is set in England, and this one is set in the US, actually in New Jersey. So if you're not too familiar with like the states, how we're set up here, so I'm in Connecticut, And so you have, I'm doing it this your way round. There's Connecticut there, and then there's New York State, which is huge, goes right up to Canada, down to Manhattan, and then you've got New Jersey.
Because there's like a rivalry between New York and New Jersey, isn't there? There's like
some things it's odd, because some things there's a rivalry, depends on the sport. If you're thinking of sport, there's the New England Patriots, of course, with American football. I can't just say football, with American football, and which is kind of like Connecticut up Massachusetts and up that way. But then in New York, you've got, I don't follow the New York ones, but the New York teams for football. But then when it comes to baseball, then it is New York and Boston, of course, but it's also New York and the Mets, which are another, New York team, tri-state team. So yeah, that's it's different for different sports.
It's just sad that all my references for this are coming from Seinfeld episodes.
Yeah.
Mine's TV as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Jersey Shore, to be fair, though.
Yeah, so this is a mystery. The difference for me for writing this, I was like so nervous writing this, because mysteries are my favorite genre to read and watch. A detective series, I love all the detective stuff. I love Agatha Christie, of course, the Queen. I'm also I've read all the Sue Grafton books, Kathy Reichs, who wrote all the Bones series, that became a TV series. This is called Control Alt Deleted.
I love that name.
Yeah, I do.
I love that name. I'm always a sucker for a clever title. And that one, yeah. Is it technical? Is it like in sort of a technical way, or is that
the female protagonist in this is tech consultant? I like to think she's got like a little bit of autism, going on.
Oh wow!
Because she's kind of very straightforward. She just says it as it is. I also allowed me to get more diverse. So the male protagonist is his family is from Puerto Rico. So he was born here. So there's some Spanish and some Spanglish in it. I have a colleague whose family is from Puerto Rico. So I was just like, are you going to help me with the Spanish? Because I can do Google translation.
Yeah. You've always been very careful with Google Translate, haven't you?
Yeah, especially the sex scenes. So he does talk dirty in Spanish. So she helped me with that. Bless her heart. And
wait, the sex scenes in this one as well?
Oh, this is even sexier.
When you came to write this, what was your process? Because you hear the sort of different theories of how people, and the idea of a mystery is you start at the end and work your way back. Is that what you did, or did you guys have a bigger picture in your head for it, or? It
was kind of born from I watch, like I say, watch a lot of TV shows. So if there's a detective or something I've got a big celebrity crush on, I might make up stories. So one of those stories kind of led into this, really. But the mystery was mine, and and this is a missing person. So our female protagonist goes missing. That's Charlotte. She goes missing. And they're all, she's a consultant and with a police department. And so the detectives in that team have to find her and find who took her, and hopefully in time. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. So I think that I did kind of have that idea that this was going to be what happened. But then I had to work on who was going to be the culprit, and it does change. It did change in my mind as to who that would be, because the way when you start to write, it can change, and you get to know the characters better. And and I was like, okay, well, this is how, this is going to fit better with what I've worked out already. You've got to go with that. You've got to be flexible enough to do that. But yeah, it was so nerve-wracking. So when people started to read it and they said they couldn't guess who the culprit was or what was happening, and they were excited, and the pages turned quickly. That I was very gratified by that. I'm planning more books in that series, but I did find very interestingly, because like I said, I have been here over 20 years in the US, that I have, my US friends who were prepared to read it, thankfully, who did say, oh no, we don't say this is British. and yeah, that.
You mentioned that you've made the protagonist, not directly, but you say autism is in the mix. Where's the inspiration come for that? Was there a reason you decided to make the main character autistic?
My daughter Emily has greater needs. She's just turned 20, and it's been a journey. Sure.
What's that been like? Because I know we're just hitting. I mentioned this in other shows that we do, but my daughter's just hitting puberty. And my daughter's has got pathological demand avoidance profile with her autism, and it's not a great marriage when you put it together with hormones and changing bodies and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh!
How did you navigate that particularly treacherous sea?
Well, my daughter's mostly non-verbal, more like not expressive, because she can tell me what she needs, but sometimes I have to decipher what she says because it's hard to understand her words. She's good at spelling though, so sometimes if I really don't get a word, she'll spell it. She may not get it exactly right, but it gives me a better idea of what she's trying to say. But so the hardest part really for me was that she would just start to cry. And not like, but that kind of crying. And she was just sitting there. She hadn't hurt herself or anything. And it's heartbreaking because and I know teens cannot express themselves necessarily very well, but she couldn't at all. And it was just heartbreaking to not be able to just talk to her. And I would hug her if she wanted that, but she didn't always. But, and I would say she was probably somewhere around 11 or 12 when that started happening. And then, periods followed shortly after that. Yeah, that was not fun. Periods was not fun. And I remember that I was at a talk once when somebody asked about this. The person speaking said, you can try getting them to put a pad on before the period starts, not before they even get their first one, I mean, just to get them used to it. It didn't work. I tried it a couple of times, but there was no correlation between why do I have to wear this? Because there was no period happening, so she didn't understand. So when she did start her period, and I'm like, okay, you have to put this pad on, like a minute after coming out of the bathroom, she comes up to me and hands me the pad back. I don't want to wear this. And I'm like, oh no, you have to wear this. But once it got going, she did make that correlation between, okay, this is happening. Whenever we'd been out and about, she would have to come into the bathroom with me, and so I never hid, like when I had mine, I never hid any of that. So I'm like, okay. And I would just say, oh, this is what happens for ladies, for women, we have to do this, and just try and, show her that it wasn't a problem. And a few years ago, 2018, we started with birth control. I don't like calling it birth control because it's not for that. It's for her periods. So now she has the shots, and she doesn't have any periods. And I ask her every time we go for a shot, because I make her medical decisions, but I feel it fair for her to be able to contribute to that if she can. And I say, do you want to get your periods or do you want to have a shot? And she'll say shot every time, shot.
The reason for people watching, the reason I ended up approaching Trish was that she'd sent me a poem that she wanted to share on my Facebook group, and the poem's incredible. I'll put it up because it's worth the read. I'll work a way to link it so that people can check it out. It was just really well done, because it's one of those sort of, I think it got me the first time because I read it and was really almost cross. Like, why does she want to post this? And then finally caught the end bit, which was now read it backwards. And it was one of those ones that completely flips itself. And it was genius. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I got an inspiration from Abdullah Shuaib, who wrote the poem Pretty Ugly, which is kind of, when you read it forwards, it's like where somebody's talking down about themselves, but then you read it backwards and it's more inspirational. And it was that for parenting.
Yeah, it really.
Yeah, because I'm my own worst critic.
I was already manufacturing in my mind, how do I respond to this politely? And then, So it was.
You love me.
Yeah.
How was support and school life for Emily in the US?
Mostly, her schooling has been terrific, because I've worked for the last 11 years. I've worked for a non-profit that helps families advocate for their children and find resources and so on. So I could tap my colleagues for help. It always surprises me, and I don't think that people who don't have kids with a disability, I don't think they really understand how difficult it can be. And I think it's true of the UK, but you can correct me if it's not. To get the services you feel that your child needs. But here in the US, for schools, we have our IEP meetings every year, which is an individual educational program. And so that's where you meet up, and there's like half a dozen or more school people and you and if you're lucky, your partner, which not always the case, because it depends if they're involved or if they have to work, and you're asking them for the services that you need, that you may not understand whether your child does need that. But that's really the tough part. I think that people who don't have kids with disabilities, they don't understand. They think that you're just given, here, have everything you need for your child. It's not how it works, because the schools have a budget, and they have to balance, that budget. And so, and if you have, and of course here in the town that I live in, there's quite a large Latino population. So if you're somebody whose first language might be Spanish or Portuguese, it makes it even harder to then advocate for your child. I mean, they do have some translators, but it does make it makes it very difficult. But Emily is very pretty, if I may say that, and I think that often goes a long way. And she's very, and this is something that annoys the heck out of me, that often in her reports from school, when they write evaluations about her, that they'll say she's very compliant. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good thing. That you might think that's a good thing, because that means she does what she's told in school.
That's masking, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's masking, out and out masking, because
I don't like it. What if an adult comes along who does not have good intentions, and she's compliant?
There's a whole world of other worries that come up, aren't there? And I think this is something that people find hard to relate to when you're not parenting a SEND child. You suddenly have these other things like, okay, the fact that my daughter's the same. I think she happily, she's probably a bit better now, but certainly in the past, she'd happily walk off with anybody if she thought they were friendly or if they had a bag of sweets.
Right.
And it's like you can't. I couldn't teach her in the same way that if you really, anything like that, you come straight to me or your mum, and we'll sort stuff out. There's worries that accompany an extra need in that way that traditional parents don't have to face, and it is so scary sometimes. And it's a side of send parenting, I think, that really does get missed a lot.
Yeah,
I had a full head of
terrifying.
hair. That's all we've got time for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank, as always, Chris.
Thank you, mate.
And Trish. What a pleasure speaking to you.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
I'm going to have to get Control-Alt-Deleted because that sounds like it really is an interesting read for me. I'm not so much a Pride and Prejudice. You wouldn't believe it looking at me, I know. The closest I've come to Pride and Prejudice was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which was probably not the most faithful retelling of that story. For sure. Thanks so much for joining us. Please do like this episode. Please do comment and subscribe and hit that bell. We want to hear your thoughts, and we want you to know when we've got new content coming up, because we've got loads coming up. Stay safe, everyone, and we will see you again next time.
Thanks, guys.